Good evening and welcome to Legal Tech Live, episode 116. I'm your host, Nick Rishwain, and our guest tonight is Nicole Bradick. Nicole Bradick of Theory and Principle, and I'm going to give you a little background on Nicole right now. And I will add that I was listening to Britney Spears before this interview got started because of this bio from their website. Nicole Bradick is the CEO and founder. She's a former of Theory and Principle. She is a former litigator turned three-time legal technology entrepreneur. Nicole is the leading industry expert in legal technology product design and development. You can often find her doing talks on this topic, like we're doing tonight, as well as belting out Britney Spears tunes at karaoke on stages around the world, which I have yet to see, but plan to see that in the future. She's been a driving force behind some of the most ambitious digital products in the legal industry and is definitely not afraid to tell you if your product's design is awful. I've known her mostly digitally, although we've met at LSC ITC in the past. And I understand you to be candid and straight speaking. I also hear there is some foul language that happens on occasion, and I am fine with that.
Okay, that's good to know.
That is totally acceptable here. But thank you, Nicole, for being here. Thank you, Habibi, for being here. I should also mention Nicole is one of like 2 or 3 Lebanese people in legal technology that I'm aware of. So
Arabs,
this is
period.
yeah. So this is me being one of those Lebanese people. So I'm happy to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, marhaba. And I just want to tell you how grateful I am that I am the 116th most important person to you.
It's not a ranking system.
It's not, is it?
It's not. But I did say that I have not, before you came on, I have not done a dev shop discussion before. So I think that is, we had talked, I think it started in a Twitter discussion anyway, from Kristen, a mutual friend, Kristen Hodgins, who mentioned something about bootstrapping, and I was like, God, I haven't really discussed that aspect of financing a legal technology company, and this is something that you've done. So tell us a little bit about Theory and Principle as a dev shop, and then we'll just sort of go with that and how that's how you've built this third company in the legal field.
Yeah, the Theory and Principle, we're a design and development agency that serves the legal industry. So we have sort of 3 segments that we serve. We serve big law firms, we serve nonprofits, and we serve legal tech companies, from all the way from like early sort of pre-revenue, even pre-product companies, through like very large enterprise legal tech. We have a really, really, really big focus on design and trying to make legal technology generally less shitty.
And I love that because, and I mean, that's right. That's a UI UX issue in most technology, right? You have to make it less shitty in order for people to want to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I am really like that. And you and I met at Legal Aid. So that is one of the three main categories that you go after.
Yes.
We met at a Legal Aid conference, I should say. So tell me how you decided, because you're not a developer yourself, are you?
No, sir.
Which surprised me because I thought that you were when I first met you.
Nope.
So tell me how you got into that.
Yeah, it's been sort of a weird, I never thought my career would take me this way ever. I was never really into technology, honestly. I never really even thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. You know, I was a civil rights litigator, really happy with some big aspects of that work, but then really was getting worn out by the sort of adversarial nature. And I just am more naturally a problem solver, and you have to be less of a problem solver as a litigator, right? You have to be like an aggravator.
An aggravator, sure.
And like my best friend is an aggravator and she's fantastic at it, but that is not my core strength, even though probably a lot of people find me very aggravating. So I started looking for things to do that were different, and there really was nothing that interests me. I live in Portland, Maine. It's a reasonably small market, and so there weren't a lot of opportunities. So I was sort of forced into entrepreneurship, which I'm like, thank God, because literally like the day I gave my notice, really the day I started my first company, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I know how to do this. This plays to all my strengths. So wait, your question was not about this. Your question was about starting the tech company. So I sort of had like this path. I had this sort of path of 2 other companies that led me to really, really gain an interest in technology, and then particularly product development. And I found product development to be like the home where I could combine like my interest in technology, my sort of creative design side, and my absolute love for the law and for the legal industry. So that's how we ended up where we are.
And was there training in this creative design side, or has it all been like self-learned as you?
And I'm not a designer. I've never designed one of our products, although I do what my team likes to affectionately call swooping and shitting. So I do a fair amount of swoop and shit with respect to design. I definitely have very strong perspective on design, but I'm not a trained designer. If you put me in front of design software, I would not know what to do. I'm just very good at hiring good people.
And you know what you like, or what looks good and looks like it works.
Yeah, and I've been building products in this space, and we've built countless products in this space for close to a decade now. And we probably have more product experience than any group of people in the legal industry. And so you just start to learn what works and what doesn't work, and what makes lawyers happy, and what makes lawyers frustrated, and what makes users happy, and what makes users frustrated. And so you start to gain like sort of an instinct for it over time. So it's always hard with new designers, because I come in and I'm like, nope, you got to change that. And they're like, no, but that doesn't make sense. I'm like, trust me.
Yes, because that's market specific.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. And how have you gotten? Are you guys the whole shop located in Portland, Maine, or are you distributed?
We started out all being co-located, but since pandemic, we now about half of our team is actually distributed. So we're continuing to grow that way. If I had my way, we would all be sitting in office together, because I think that is just super fun, even though I'm the loudest one there and I probably disturb everybody. But it's really helped us to open up a lot more talent, right? Because obviously we're in a small market, and I'm looking for very, very specific types of talent. And so it was hard to find that in this market. So it's really allowed us to bring in a lot of new and excellent talent.
And I think that leads into, so from day one, when you left the practice and started your first company, well, I'm going to kind of gloss over the first kind of 2 companies, because you want to talk about theory and principle. When you started this company, you had some now experience under your belt about starting companies. And did you self-finance from the beginning? Was this like where I'm ready, and how did you make that decision?
Yeah, so all of the sort of moves that I've made have all been sort of reasonably low risk moves. I mean, everything you do like this is gonna involve some risk. But I didn't leave the law practice until I had enough revenue to take care of my family. Right at that time, when I started my first company, I had 2 babies at home. $0 in my savings account.
Right.
So I had to be more careful. So I didn't leave until I had revenue that could sustain life. And then I sold that company into my next company. And then when I left there, I had enough from that to go start this company. And so none of them were very, very high risk. And this one is the company I started where I felt most like, yeah, there's no question it's going to succeed, because I at that point I knew what the market needed. I knew we had a particular talent that we could offer and bring to the market. I knew our value proposition was strong, and we had clients from day one, so we were profitable from really the day we opened the door, just because we had developed a good, me and my team had developed a good reputation over the years.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And it's, what everybody wants when they're, because if you're going to search for financing, having revenue coming in really helps that way. But you knew from the beginning that you didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's fair. I have always, I don't have a huge safety net. Like I've always been a bit risk averse. And I always knew that I'm too much of a pain in the ass to really have a lot of people hovering over me. And I didn't want anybody telling me how to grow. I didn't want anybody telling me that, I'm a very sort of instinctual business leader, and I like to grow when things feel right. And I wanted to make my own moves, and I didn't want anybody sort of trying to dictate how I grow. So, and also, I'm running a service business, so I really didn't need it,
Yeah.
which is an important distinction. And I understand that that is not the case for people who are running product businesses. But even now, we're starting as a company, we're starting to bring products to market. Typically we're just doing, work for hire for our clients, but we're starting to bring products out to market. And we've got a couple of product ideas now, and I'm looking at those, and mostly we can cover them with revenue. We have enough margin to sort of invest in activities like that. But there are a couple of projects where I'm thinking about getting some funding, but I'm just going to do debt financing, because then
Right.
it all just stays easy, and it allows me to decide my future.
Yeah. And I mean, this is, I want to actually, for a second here, I want to thank those who are here: Amanda, Brad, Chris, Jasmine, Nicola, and Sam. So thank you
What's
for
up,
being here.
guys?
Most of you know, and it looks like Nicola Shaver has asked a question already. Thank you.
That's Nikki.
Nikki
Call her
Shaver. Yes.
Nikki.
Yes. Thank you. She asks, would love to hear more about transition from law firm to first company. How did you do both until you had revenue from the company to make the leap? And she mentions you have spoken about there being transitions that are possible for entrepreneurs, which mean that you don't have to feel like you have to be eating ramen from boxes to make it as an entrepreneur. Can you tell us more about that?
I'm pretty
Thank
sure,
you,
Nikki.
Nikki.
I'm pretty sure, Nikki, I reference eating ramen out of shoes. I don't know why. That is a thing that I think people need to do. Yes. So when I knew the writing was sort of on the wall for me, and I knew I wanted to leave, I approached my firm, and so a little bit more context.
Please.
I was on maternity leave with my second child. My first child was only like a year and a half old. I had these like crazy close together babies. And I came up with the idea on maternity leave, and I came and like during maternity leave, I talked to my firm and I said, hey, I want to start this company. You cool with that? So they said yes, which is just weird to me.
So
but
like you went to check with them as far as, are you going to have a conflict with this, right?
Yeah. I wanted their permission. I didn't want to feel like I had to hide what I was doing.
Right.
And they said yes, which was wonderful. And so basically, I was practicing law full time. I had two babies at home, and I was working from home full time at that time with two babies at home and no help, which like I look back on that time and I don't even understand how that was possible. I think I truly, truly believe that after you have a baby, you get these like bonkers hormones that let you do things that like normal people can't do. Because I could not do that right now. So I was, during the day was
like greater drive. You mean you're just.
It's just like an unending energy, which people like, people think, you had a baby, you're tired because you're not sleeping. And yeah, there's that. You're like kind of exhausted, but you're also kind of manic.
Interesting.
I really think there's this like weird superpower. So I was practicing law during the day, and then at night I would work on my company. And it got to the point where like I became really interested in working on my company. I was really happy with it that I then went down to part-time with my law firm. So I was part-time, full-time at home with babies, part-time at my law firm, part-time working on my first company. And then eventually we had enough revenue where I could leave the law firm altogether. So, a lot of it, I'm really grateful to that firm for having been flexible, because they could have pushed me to make a choice. Sure. And it's a choice. If they had pushed me to make the choice, I could not at the time, like financially, would not have felt comfortable making the choice to leave my law firm to start something that's completely unknown.
That's
and
fantastic.
I think that's a leap that's really scary for a lot of people.
So it was gradual in that respect. So there's still some income coming in for you while you're raising a family and building a company.
Absolutely.
That's good. So Nikki, if I do like Nicola, I think that's great because we've got Nick, Nicole, and Nicola here tonight, which is kind of cool. So I kind of like the A on the end, but I will go by Nikki. But yeah, please, folks, if you got more questions, or if those of you over in the legal tech community on Facebook have questions, get them in. How did you decide that you wanted to build products like that? For you wanted to have this service business where you're making legal tech, but as a service, essentially. How did you decide on that? Was that
Yeah.
partly business model, lifestyle, or was it you just couldn't, you got tired of shitty law firm websites and legal aid websites?
All of the above,
Okay.
truly. So my first software project sort of fell into my lap. And at that time, I really didn't know about development, but learned fast and had not felt so energized by anything. Because I do have have a very strong creative side, and
Mm-hmm.
the law doesn't sort of let you flex that muscle.
Right.
But then I'm also very like mission driven, right? I mean, my whole career has been focused on sort of civil justice issues, and so it was really just like hitting all the things that I care about. And I just love products. I love everything about it. It's such a different way to think and a different way to work. And it's, if you think about how people are spending their lives, we're creating these experiences for them online that are like guiding everything that they're doing every day. And the opportunity to make really hard things really easy through technology is incredible. So I just, for me, the passion was strong and continues to be strong. And then I just, if I tried to start this company, 5 years earlier, it would have been
Mm-hmm.
it would have been a flop, right? But it was just hitting, it was the time when sort of law firms started hiring their innovation teams, like where Nikki
Mm-hmm.
works, and it was. They were starting, it started to become a competitive aspect for law firms, who's building the better products, who's finding new and different ways to serve their clients. And then for legal aid organizations, obviously the message was strong, where there are simply not enough humans to represent everybody who needs help. So technology is not going to be the solution, but it does allow us to scale a lot of information and a lot of services as quickly as we can to the broadest possible audience. It's not a perfect solution by any means, but
Right.
there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, and I think you and I are in agreement on that. When I was at the LSC conference, I thought, the problem I'm hearing is one that can be solved by, or at least in part solved by technology, because you need that scale to help the number of people who aren't getting assistance.
It's true. And the thing that the thing that irks me is that there is this tremendous opportunity to use technology to improve lives. But bad software, badly designed software that is clunky, that is outdated, that it creates too many barriers for users, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
It's not going to help. So that's, a big reason why I spend a lot of time sort of being a jerk about design, is that that's the only thing that's important. Like, we can make anything work on the technology side. That's
Mhm.
that, honestly, like I think I upset my backend developers when I tell them that, like, what you do, like, they'll just get things done. They'll make it happen. So I don't care about the fancy technology. I care about, like, are we building something that is purpose built for this situation, that is going to allow this user to easily get through whatever it is we need them to get through.
Avoiding the bounce rate, essentially, is what you're right. Like,
Yeah,
I get to this point where I don't know what's going on and I'm not going to do it anymore.
Exactly. So there's so much opportunity for us to help people, but we need to be building things in a way that will actually, like, get them through it.
Yeah, excellent. Sam asks, how do you find competing and differentiating yourself in the past 12 to 18 months with proliferation of no code and low code proprietary platforms and law tech built for and by lawyers?
Ooh, it's a good question, and certainly, there probably is some universe in which I would think of the low code products as competitors. But we know what we do well, right?
Mhm.
We build custom applications when there's a need for a custom application. And that's when there's really specific interface that needs to be designed for it, when there's particular data needs, when there's complexity, when somebody really needs something specific. We would not be, and it's very much the same as lawyers, right?
Mhm.
If somebody comes to you and says, hey, can you fill out this form, like, no, you're better than that, right? And we're better than that, right? We can do more. We would not be giving our clients value if they came to us and said, hey, can you build this super basic expert system that generates a document, and we want it all to be custom. Like, no, go use an off-the-shelf platform for that.
Right.
You don't need us.
Yeah. That's excellent. Let us know if that answered your question, Sam, and anybody else who's got questions. I see Ed Walters has joined, Chris Congero's here, Blaine Corty. Welcome, everybody. If you got questions for Nicole, get them in. We don't want her to stay. She is evidently early to sleep as I am, so I'm not going to keep her forever tonight.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But
This
you
is
guys
fun.
can keep her if you keep asking questions.
Yeah, this is a pandemic new thing where I basically would put my kids to bed and then I would go like right to bed. I think it's because that's the only time I had alone. And so like I was just gonna go right to bed and be alone as long as I could.
Right. I like it. I like it. So tell me this then, on staying on that pandemic topic, which unfortunately has been a topic that we've been discussing for over a year now. But on that topic, have you also seen an increase in business for those who are needing to build better tools?
We're crazy slammed. We're we're quite busy, and I don't know if it has anything to do with pandemic. I will say that the one sort of notable uptick during pandemic was that we started working with a lot more tech companies to work on like product redesigns or help with like UX work. And
Right.
I tried to like read the tea leaves to try to understand why that was happening. And I don't know, it may have just been a coincidence, but like we had a 300% increase in inquiries from legal tech companies at like the start of the pandemic.
Interesting.
But yeah. So we've worked
How
on some
about law
pretty
firms?
cool.
Did you notice any uptick in law firms who were needing tools that serve now the people working from home, or somehow supplemented
Yeah.
that work from home?
Yeah, not really for people who are working from home, but I think that it did create a moment where they had to think about, okay, how can we otherwise provide services to clients? How can we think a little differently and communicate with them differently? So we've definitely worked on some projects in the past year along those lines.
Okay.
I will say, like at the beginning of pandemic, belts tightened a bit from law firms, but by the time we got to the end of last year, and they're like, oh, we're fine. Then all of a sudden budgets loosened up and now everybody wants to do 100 projects. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So there, because I know there was a tightening of the belt. We felt it in our business, and for a short time. But
Yeah, I got several calls in December saying, "Can we prepay you to build us stuff for next year?" Like we actually did fine. We got this cash, and we need to get it off our
get it off the books.
Yeah.
Ed asks, there are some pretty ridiculous law school classes in the world. I would agree with that, Ed. Crazy to think, and this is a question, is it crazy to think there's a place for service design seminar in law schools?
So Ed, you might be surprised to learn, I have feelings about the law school courses.
Please tell us about those feelings.
And I think, the first soapbox that I get on is the fact that like there are a number of very interesting courses out there and teaching very interesting things to students. But we're still I still don't see a lot of like, here's how to use technology courses. Like,
Yeah.
Here's Clio, here's, how to use Excel, here's how to like run a basic like practice management 101.
Yep.
And I think that's really weird that we sort of skipped over, like we went from no discussion of technology to let's build apps.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a whole lot in between that we've missed, that it seems a lot more critical for everyday lives of lawyers, as we're trying to raise up lawyers.
Yeah.
I think
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
I was going to add to that, actually, because when this comes up in Twitter discussions, which it does maybe once or twice a year, I say, like, are we teaching them about how to use a CRM, or in the case of lawyers, the practice management? And are we teaching them to input good data on their clients so that you can keep in touch? Like, why are we not making that the 101 of, how do you use this CRM tool or practice management tool, whichever one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me that that's not even, and Sam asks, or even word styles, which makes great sense as well.
Yeah, but even to more specifically answer Ed's question, I actually think service design would be a much more useful course than let's build apps. Because service design is hard, and it's something that, like, if you become a lawyer, that will be the most relevant thing to you. And service design can include technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be a component of it, but really, like, we need to have, I think the value of these courses is getting students to look at what they're doing in law in a different way. And I think a lot of time is spent on like putting together the app, when that's not really the useful part of it, right? The useful part of it is how do we look at things from different angles? How do we test out things? How do we try new ideas? And that's, I think that's probably better taught as service design, Ed.
Excellent. Good question, Ed. Thanks for asking it. Get your questions in, folks, if you have them. Johan, welcome. Thank you for joining.
You can get your votes in too. Who's your favorite Lebanese legal tech person?
Ooh, don't do it. Don't put them on the spot that way. You guys all have to vote for me. I feel like doing a Chris Farley where I'll turn this bus around if they don't vote for me. Luckily, I'm in charge of the polls here. And let's see, we've got another one. Hey, Nicole, can you dive a little deeper into what are some of the aspects of bad design that stand out to you? What makes a product old or clunky? That's a great question. And please dig into that.
It's such a big question.
It is.
Okay. So I think there are some core principles in user experience design. And I think the number one area in which we fail in legal tech is in clarity, right? The user should always know what's going to happen if they click a button or go down some path. Once they've done that, they need to know how they're going to get back, or what their options are. Their sort of primary actions need to be clear and apparent to them. And I think that it's really, really basic stuff. And I think that most legal tech applications fail from that basic, like, clarity issue. I think that there is also and I notice this more with lawyer-led legal tech companies, because it's a very lawyer trait, is the desire to put as many things as you can onto a screen. Because everything's important, right? Like, we care as lawyers, we care about the details matter. Right. But it's really like an architecture issue, stepping back and say, okay, what is the primary activity? What is the secondary? What's the tertiary? How do we hide those? Can we put something behind stick something in a modal? Can we put it under an accordion? Can we use one of the many basic design components to clean things up a little bit, so that we're drawing the user's eye to exactly what they probably need to do, right? And you'll know, if you talk to your users, there are things they probably will do way more often than other things. So it's talking to your users and figuring out what is important to them. And the answer can't be everything's important, because it's not. Right. And I think that is a hard instinct for lawyers to unlearn. Right. And as far as what makes a product old, well, there just are a ton of legacy products out there, like literally old, like just old technology that can't keep up. One of the most frustrating things that we face working in the legal aid space is that there's still so much legacy technology that's in use that it really hampers our ability to innovate with our clients, because we have no way to push and pull data out of these applications. We have no way to sort of create any sort of seamless experience from the user coming out of one of these systems. It makes innovation extremely hard when they're using these old technologies. So that's a real issue.
That is a real issue. I mean, you see it when you go to a lot of either legal aid websites or I see it all the time on our local court website. Like,
Oh,
oh my
Jesus.
God.
Court websites, I'm not even going to start.
Yeah, I don't want to start down that road. But I mean, part of that is a funding issue, we know, but it's just a nightmare.
I had a conversation recently with one of the largest court systems in the United States that was contemplating redoing their website and for the whole system.
Okay.
And they had like 2 people on this committee for this overhaul. And there was 2 people who knew nothing about technology and had like the most shoestring budget. And I was just saying to them, I was like, do they understand that this is the primary way in which the public interacts with the court?
And wants to. That's
Yes.
The primary way they want to interact with the court.
Like they don't have to, like the vast majority of people will not show up on the court steps, but they will get the information they need. They'll figure things out. They'll file things all based on the internet.
Yes.
So courts are very, very challenging. They tend to have the worst sites, but the most critical use case.
Yeah. But I feel like if we go, for example, of old and clunky, you can go to just about any local court site and
any one of them
and get a great example of that. At least that's been my experience.
Oh, I need to tell you, Nick,
please,
for Legal Geek next month, we're running a workshop on like how to run usability testing with users, and my mom is going to join as the tester.
Yes. That's fantastic.
We were gonna have her join and work through like a government site.
Yeah.
But given the amount of time it took for us to get her on Zoom to do a run through, we were like, no, that's gonna be like, this woman cannot get through a government site.
So wait, is mom out? Is mom out?
No, mom's in. We're doing like we decided to go to like something that's a little bit better. Like I think we're gonna do a travel site, for example.
Okay.
But the government site, she could not even start.
Yeah, it's incredible how and my dad, who's a lawyer who's older, had to go to a small claims thing for one of his businesses recently, and he's like, I don't want to go deal with this. Like, right? He should know how, but that's how difficult the interaction with even something as simple as small claims is.
Conversely, my father, who has no legal training, goes to small claims court like once a week.
He loves it.
He takes anybody. If you look at him sideways, he's like, I'll see you in small claims court, buddy.
So different strokes, I guess, on that one. But I mean, when you look at the small claims forms for as an example, as sort of a design example, like, I don't even want to fill it out if I have to, right? It's like, is this worth my time and money for me to do this? Because this is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see, let's say in the next 2 years, Nicole, what do you think we're going to see a lot of products that are being built? Is there any particular type, any particular designs you think or products you think are going to be built in, say, the next 18 to 24 months? Or there's maybe a demand that you see?
Yeah. So on the legal tech side, we're working with more and more like CLM contract management type companies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that CLM is so hot right now.
It's so hot.
So hot right now. And I think there's so much you can do with like, particularly with like machine learning and contracts, that there's so much fascinating work happening out there. We are actually launching our second product in the fall, which is like a virtual clinic product that allows law firm pro bono people, legal aid organizations, law schools to run typical clinics that we would normally run, like lawyer of a day, but do it all in a very virtual way where we automate a ton of the activity for the lawyer so that the lawyer can churn and help as many people as possible with their pro bono hours. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus on continuing to bring things online. I think people have sort of pasted together a lot of stuff during the pandemic, and then I think we'll see a lot of like platforms come out of what people have pasted together.
Yeah, seems to be that the stories we see in the legal journals about how this has moved the legal industry forward in some respects is it has some accuracy.
Yeah, I fail to see like a really strong silver lining, because it's just the outlook for everyday Americans is so dismal and so shitty, and there's just no money to help, and so it's hard to find a silver lining. But if there is one, I suppose that's it.
If they're yeah, I mean, I guess I should qualify for legal industry. It seems to be that it may have had some positive impacts.
There's so much money going around right now.
Yeah.
All going to dudes, but there's a lot of money right now.
Tell me about that. Is that because you have told me about that? Is it something you're willing to say online or when we're recorded? I think it is.
Oh, Nick, I'm very, very shy.
I know, so shy,
opinions, but yes. I think one of the reasons I like to talk about bootstrapping is because, I was one of those people where I never thought I could be a lawyer. I never thought I was smart enough. I didn't think it was possible. And then I got a job right out of college, and there were two young female lawyers there. And I saw them and I was like, wait, like they're just like me. And like, truly, like, it sounds so like idiotic, but that's what I needed to see to know that I could go and do this. Like, I had to physically see this, and it didn't seem insurmountable. Right. So I think a lot about bringing more diverse founders into technology, into any space, is seeing that other people who are like you, so not like superpower people, not badasses, not like, people who go out and raise $1 billion. Seeing people who are like you running a business is a lot. It provides a lot of comfort that I can do it too. Right. So I think that a big part of the reason I talk about what I do is because I want people to know that, I now run a company that is, the most predominant development shop in the world for legal technology. And we work on the most interesting projects. And I fly around the world to do talks about what we do. And, I can't even believe how that I get to do this. And I want people to know how not spectacular of a human I am, like how absolutely average. And so that you can be too, like, you can do this. You don't have to be anything other than just a person who is interested and passionate. It's all you need, all the ingredients you have. And so I think that, the funding issue for women is sort of, I went a little bit off topic, but it's all kind of related, right? It's the belief that you can do something. It's the belief that I can go and walk into a room and ask somebody for $75 million and walk out and say, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to do a really good job with that. And so I just feel like we need to make this stuff seem easier, because it really doesn't have to be that hard. Right.
And there's no we've seen the numbers. Kristen Sunday's done a great job of kind of tracking some of this, right? About women founders being funded, and it's scary. It's disappointing.
It's awful. And I was doing a talk the other day, and I was like, God, there's just so much money out there to get right now. And it's true, but it's for a really particular slice. It's, I try to find like the positive things and the areas what we can work on to make these things better. And it's hard. I think it's hard to not fall into a trap of bitterness sometimes. And I think that's something that we all women entrepreneurs need to balance. This feeling like, perhaps we're not playing on a fair plane, but just forging ahead and doing what you can and making it happen.
Yeah, I think that's great. Great suggestions. I try and do what's in my control and have more female founders than the percentage that are in legal tech on the show. Right. I try and balance it out as best I can, because that's what's in my control. But it's really, I'm hoping that this changes in because our generation, it seems we've been more open to more of my supervisors in my career have been women than men, so it's like not abnormal. Yeah, right.
And I think we've also changed the picture of what a CEO looks like. I think if you told somebody that like this was a CEO like 20 years ago, they'd be like, yeah, sure. Like, we're also sort of changing the image of
Right.
what a
It's not,
CEO
we're
looks like. And
not the 3-piece suit and the
no 3-piece suit, and
Right.
you can have a personality, and you can sort of be yourself, and you can still be successful. And in fact, what I always say is that I never actually started to become really successful until I let myself be, and really shook off a lot of that lawyer stuff, the sort of the veneer that we put on in front of a court, in front of our clients. It wasn't really until I shook that off that I started to do all right.
That the personal is professional. Like that's personal and professional are not two different people. One
that's well
an
put.
act. It's one of them is an act.
Yeah.
If you guys have any more questions, it's about 40 minutes in. I don't want to keep her all night. She's got kids.
They're asleep by now. It's
fine. Are
fine.
they? Okay, that's great. But I don't want to keep her all night. If you do have some questions, get those in. It's been great chatting with you on this. I'll give them a couple more minutes to get any last minute questions in. What would you like to see change in legal technology? Would you like to see more people? I mean, I talk to startups who generally are product driven, right? This is my 116 episodes in, and I'm talking to a dev shop for the first time. Not that I don't interact with dev shops on a regular basis, I do. But I generally have been product driven and startup driven, and we talk about financing. So what would you like to see change in the legal technology space? Do we have to broaden our horizon that way?
I think that honestly, it doesn't sound like a nice thing to say, but I do think that some of the legacy technology just needs to sunset, because I think legacy technology is holding back innovation. And it gets in the way time and time again. I mean, even today, we had a call with a potential client on something, and we had these great ideas, and it was like, oh, but we can't do that because your software is not open. So I think letting go of legacy technology and letting it sunset is, or for the people who are running those organizations, scrap it and start over. You've learned a lot. So and the software was revolutionary when it started. I'm sure it's just things have changed.
Right.
So we need to let it go.
And some of those organizations are not open, and oftentimes preventing it is a long-term contract for the party who you're trying to sell to, right?
Or network effects.
Or network effects, yeah.
Yeah.
Nikki asks, when should law firms bring in a dev shop compared to buying from the market or trying to develop themselves? That's a great question, Nikki. Thank you.
It's a very good question, Nikki. And I think that if you can buy, you should buy. I think if there is something off the shelf that will meet most of your needs, that law firms should be doing that instead of carrying custom software. Custom software is expensive. It takes taken care of. I think the time for law firms to build custom is when I like to think about a lot of the client-facing applications as really more of a marketing application, even if it's doing some heavy legal lifting, right? This is a way that you're presenting yourself to your clients. And so I think it should be treated in the same way you create your marketing site, your brand, which is, very, very custom, right? You have a message, you have a position, you have a certain way that you want to present your firm to your clients. And I think that any custom applications are, when there's a critical application that you're building that's client facing, that's a really great time to think about a custom interface. Also, law firms are very exacting clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
They like custom software because they can have things exactly how they want it with no compromise. Mm-hmm. And if you're in that situation and you absolutely can't compromise with an off-the-shelf solution, then custom software is great. As far as bringing the dev function internal, I have only seen a couple examples of that being very successful. And that's for really the more mature, not the mature firms, the mature innovation teams who have been building products for a while. The one that comes to mind most is Kennedy's in the UK. They have like a massive suite of tools, and they've got all their developers internally, and they do a fantastic job because they run it like a product team. We have had several law firms over the past few years come to us saying, we tried to build the internal dev function. We would like to stop doing that, and we would like to hire you. It's just really hard to, the sort of agile life cycles, just if development runs so differently than a firm runs. And it's hard to, we can move fast on behalf of a law firm, but product teams within law firms cannot move that fast. And I think it often creates some tension. There's usually some frustration because they're usually borrowing members from the IT team as well. So then IT gets frustrated because you're constantly poaching them for these products. So I think like if you think about like Wilson Sonsini's Outpost, Kennedy's, like their product teams just focus on product. And I think that can be successful. There is a talent challenge though, right? It's hard to find like top designers and developers who want to work at a law firm. Sorry, guys.
Right. It's not the sexiest of jobs. It's not. Right.
And especially when they make them wear suits. I always crack up when we have an internal developer on a call wearing a suit. I was like, my team would die.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah, they're missing the dev ethos on that one. Well, I don't want to keep you all night. Thank you, everybody. I have a couple last minute things here. One, before we got started, Nicole was telling me that there's an internal debate at her home as to who is more famous in her family, her or her husband. So what I've done is I've snagged the names of those of you who are here tonight. And when we share this next week, when it lands, I'm going to tag all of you and you're all going to share it. And we're going to kind of try and do legal tech virality, which is like 20 shares. And we're just going to pump up the numbers for her so she can go to the kids and say, look how great this is. So,
and just for some background, that's because my husband has a small company here in Maine. He's a civil engineer. And so he is frequently on like the local access channel at planning board meetings and in like the Podunk, Maine newspaper about some latest things. So they think that he's wildly famous.
So I'm going to expect some help from all of you who attended tonight to help beat that back. Nicole, before you go, one last question is favorite Lebanese dish.
Oh, mjadra. It's got to be lentils and rice. If you have it warm, nice and warm with some khubbaz, it's so good.
Interesting. One of my least favorites, surprisingly. It is.
Do you get it with like my mom fries the onions on top or like caramelizes them and gotta get some caramelized onions on top.
Okay. I do we've done the caramelized onions inside, but not on haven't done them on top, so that's interesting. Where do folks find you online if they want to reach out and hire you?
I'm on Twitter at Nicole Bradick, and my email is nicole@theoryandprinciple.com. Always happy to chat. And you can check out our website at theoryandprinciple.com. And I'm sorry it's so long, and you will likely misspell it 5 times.
You will likely misspell it 5 times, but I don't want you to misspell her last name. It's Bradick, 1D for Nicole Bradick. So if you find her on Twitter, in Theory and Principle.com.
That's it.
And you'll go and you'll like the website, which I think is by design. It's I was on it today for a while, and I was like, this is a clean looking website. I really like this. So thank you so much, Nicole, for being here tonight. I don't want to keep you any longer.
Thank you, Habibi. Thank you.
Thank you, Habibi. And thank you for doing that, being the first Lebanese person on the show with me. So I appreciate that. And I will talk to you soon. Next week, I'll let you know when it drops. Next week, folks, we'll be back with Mark Doble of Alexi Inc. That he's working on memos. So this is a topic I have not covered. Another Canadian firm working on memos. Sounds exciting, right? All right, folks. Thanks so much. Nicole, thank you again. Have a great night.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.